The East West Railway team is in Lidlington today, meeting local people and answering questions on a huge range of topics. On our side, we've got people from our environment team, we've got engineers, we've got design team, we've got people who are experts in land and property, all ready, willing and able to answer questions. And we really have had a lot of questions today from people. We've rounded up the ones that we heard most frequently and we're answering them today in a video here for you.
Question 1. What is the point in spending so much money on East West Rail when the railway won't benefit everyone and it will also carry very little freight?
I'm going to tackle that question in three parts. Firstly, whether or not East West Rail represents good value for money for the taxpayer. All the evidence that we have, which you can read in our economic and technical report, is telling us that by unlocking the constraints that are currently holding back the economic growth of the region between Oxford and Cambridge, we can release from 2050 about £100 billion a year of added gross value into the economy. We think that that's incredible value for money considering the cost of East West Rail. Secondly, whether or not people will use the railway, we know, everyone knows that lives and works in this area. There's a fundamental lack of east-west public transport in the area, transport that's reliable, that's sustainable, and that can move people and easily around the region. We know that that's an issue. The third is the issue of freight. We've been asked to do two things regarding freight. Firstly, to make sure that nothing we do would hinder or damage the freight that already runs on the East West Railway line, particularly the section in the Marston Vale line and also up through Bedford. The second thing we've been asked to do is to make sure that any infrastructure we build could accommodate freight. We've looked really carefully at whether or not East West Rail could accommodate freight alongside our passenger traffic, and we think at the moment that there could be 2 freight paths a day in each direction added as a consequence of East West Rail. It is important to note though that East West Rail is predominantly a passenger railway, but also that if any more freight than that were to be added to the line, it would require significant investment outside of the route, which is outside the scope of the project.
Question 2. Have you considered moving the railway and bypassing Lidlington so you could then avoid issues with the level crossing in the centre of the village?
We have looked at whether bypassing Lidlington with the railway would be a good option. We found, though, that the environmental constraints are quite severe and also the cost implications are quite large. So we take the view at the moment that the best thing for us to do is to maintain the current alignment through Lidlington. However, we do know that people are really concerned about the implications of that for connectivity across the village, and we're listening to that and we're really taking that very seriously. We're looking at options and we will be coming out in the first half of next year with a fully fledged design for people to have a look at. One of the things that people have been particularly interested in is a footbridge, and we are looking at the options for a pedestrian footbridge which would allow people full accessibility across the village, whether that be with buggies, shopping, wheelchairs, all of that kind of stuff, to make sure that people really can keep moving across this community.
Question 3. And keeping with the theme about access in the village, what will happen to the level crossing in Lidlington?
At the moment, we're looking at a design to bring into consultation in the first half of next year, and we're looking at a range of data to help us with that. One of the things we will be doing is some quite extensive traffic modelling to help us understand the way people move around the village. That, as I say, will feed into the next stage of design, which we will bring out for a full statutory public consultation in the first half of next year.
And finally, question 4. Why are you claiming no decisions have yet been made about stations and level crossings when your own technical report shows they have?
So I do understand that there's been some confusion about this, but I'll just read the relevant passage from the economic and technical report, which I have here. It has not yet been determined which stations will remain open or close and which will service the trains which connect the whole route. In this section, there is a table which shows one of the possible models which we use to help us understand the stopping patterns of the trains. It has been misconstrued as being our preferred solution. It isn't. And again, I'll just confirm it has not yet been determined which stations will remain open or close and which will service the trains which connect the whole route. I really hope that clears it up.
And if there's a question that you'd like answered, it may have already been covered in some of the existing videos which are now available on our website. Here you can also find a range of fact sheets explaining East West Rail's plans to connect the region. But if you have any further questions that you can't find answers to, you can always email us, contact@eastwestrail.co.uk.